In the small, quiet town of Elmsworth, there was a strip of barren land by the highway, often overlooked and forgotten. As the sun set, painting the sky in hues of purple and orange, a group of teenagers gathered on this land to play football. The sound of laughter and the thud of the ball echoed in the empty expanse. Under the moonless night sky, two teams of teenagers played a heated game of football. The only light came from nearby car headlights, casting long, eerie shadows. The intensity of the game was palpable, with players in mid-action, shouting and running, determined to win. However, the game took a dark turn when a foul was called. A heated argument broke out among the teenagers. Faces were contorted in anger, hands gesturing wildly. The tension was visible, with some players stepping back while others got in each other's faces. Chaos erupted as the argument turned violent. Fists flew, and a few teenagers wielded knives. The scene was frantic and brutal, with bodies colliding and expressions of fear and fury. The once playful atmosphere was now filled with screams and bloodshed. The ground was littered with motionless bodies, some covered in blood. The aggressors stood in shock, realizing the gravity of their actions. The moon cast a cold light over the gruesome scene, highlighting the horror of the moment. In a panic, the aggressors hastily dug shallow graves. They buried the bodies, their hands and clothes stained with blood and dirt, glancing around nervously as if expecting to be caught. The land, once a place of joy, was now a silent witness to a horrific crime. Years passed, and the memory of the tragic night faded. The barren land by the highway was transformed into a vibrant playground. Construction workers installed bright, colorful football field equipment on the previously empty land. There were goalposts, benches, and freshly painted lines on the field. The finished playground was filled with teenagers playing happily. The equipment was new and shiny, the grass lush and green, and the atmosphere was filled with laughter and joy. It seemed like a perfect place for the community to gather. However, the playground's caretaker, Mr. Griswold, was a creepy and eccentric figure. He stood by the playground with an unsettling smile, hunched over with piercing eyes, wearing old, worn clothes. Teenagers kept their distance, wary of his eerie presence. One day, a teenager digging near the field discovered bones protruding from the ground. The teenager looked confused and frightened, holding a small bone in their hand while others gathered around, equally curious and scared. The discovery sent a chill through the community. Fresh bloodstains mysteriously appeared on the goalposts and benches. The stains were dark and ominous, contrasting sharply with the bright colors of the playground equipment. The sight of the bloodstains added to the growing unease. A teenager practicing penalties was grabbed by ghostly, icy hands from beneath the ground. The teenager's face twisted in terror as they were pulled down, struggling to break free. The incident left the community in shock and fear. Faint, ghostly figures were seen at the edge of the football field in the evening. They were barely visible, transparent and ethereal, blending with the shadows cast by the setting sun. The playground, once a place of joy, was now a place of terror. The playground's eerie events continued, and the community's fear grew. One day, a teenager vanished in the blink of an eye while playing a match. The spot where they stood was empty, with other players looking around in confusion and panic. When the teenager reappeared, they were in a daze, standing in the middle of the field with a blank expression. Their clothes were disheveled, and they looked lost and confused, unable to explain where they had been. The incident added to the growing list of mysterious occurrences. The bulletin board at the playground was filled with missing posters of teenagers. Each poster showed a different teenager, with their name, age, and description, and a plea for information. The community was desperate for answers. Tommy, a brave and curious teenager, felt a cold hand gripping his ankle and pulling him to the ground while he played alone at dusk. His face was a mask of terror as he struggled against the unseen force. The experience left him determined to uncover the truth. One evening, Tommy saw a pale, ghostly face peering at him from beneath the goalpost. The face was expressionless, with hollow eyes that seemed to pierce through him, sending a chill down his spine. The playground was now deserted and decayed, the once vibrant lines faded and the goalposts rusting. Determined to uncover the truth, Tommy started talking to elderly residents and researching the playground's history in the library. He was focused, surrounded by old books and newspapers, piecing together the grim past of the playground. Mr. Thompson, an elderly resident, shared the story of the murders with a haunted look in his eyes. They sat in a dimly lit room, Mr. Thompson's face lined with age and sorrow as he recounted the tale of the tragic night. One night, Tommy sneaked into the football field with a flashlight, looking determined and scared. The field was cast in shadows, the beam of the flashlight cutting through the darkness as he searched for clues. Tommy dug where he saw bones protruding, uncovering human remains. His hands were dirty, and his face was a mix of horror and determination as he revealed the grim truth. The realization that the bones were human hit him hard. He entered Mr. Griswold's creepy, dimly lit house, filled with old furniture and peculiar artifacts. The atmosphere was tense, with shadows lurking in every corner. As he explored the house, he discovered a hidden room filled with newspaper clippings and items belonging to the missing teenagers. The room was small and cluttered, the walls covered in yellowed clippings, and a chest filled with football jerseys and shoes. Suddenly, Mr. Griswold appeared behind Tommy with a face twisted in rage and fear. His eyes were wild, and his posture aggressive as he realized Tommy had uncovered his secret. Tommy confronted Mr. Griswold, who looked furious and desperate. The tension was palpable, with Tommy standing his ground and Griswold trying to intimidate him. In a moment of madness, Griswold confessed that the spirits demanded sacrifices. His face was twisted with fear and desperation, revealing his torment. Tommy and his friends gathered around a table with old books, planning a ritual to appease the spirits. The room was dimly lit, with candles and ancient texts spread out before them. They moved with purpose, collecting candles, tokens, and other ritual items. At night, the group performed the ritual, lighting candles and saying prayers. They were gathered in a circle, the flickering candlelight casting eerie shadows. As the ritual progressed, shadows moved independently of their sources. The group looked around nervously as the shadows danced and shifted ominously. The ground shook with faint cries echoing around the football field. The group struggled to stay standing, their faces filled with fear and determination. Suddenly, Griswold attacked the group with a shovel, looking desperate to stop them. The scene was chaotic, with Griswold swinging the shovel wildly, and the group trying to defend themselves. The group struggled with Griswold, trying to subdue him while continuing the ritual. They grappled with him, their faces set with determination and fear. As the ritual neared completion, the spirits began to dissipate, and a sense of calm settled over the playground. The air felt lighter, and the shadows retreated. Police arrived and arrested Griswold, with Tommy and his friends looking relieved and exhausted. Griswold was handcuffed, his face a mask of defeat as he was led away. A proper burial ceremony was held for the bones found, with a memorial being erected. The scene was somber and respectful, with people gathered to pay their respects. A memorial plaque was placed with flowers and footballs around it, honoring the victims. The plaque was engraved with names and a heartfelt message, surrounded by tokens of remembrance. The playground was restored to its former charm, with children playing football happily once again. The equipment was bright and colorful, the grass neatly trimmed, and the atmosphere joyful. Tommy was hailed as a local hero, receiving thanks from parents and children. He stood modestly, surrounded by grateful people, his face reflecting relief and pride.